The Hekatonystika, also called the Orders of Battle, was the hidden counterpart of the wings of the Dark Angels Legion's infamous hexagrammaton. Transliterated roughly as the 100 esoteric arts in the language of the broken lands of Mycenae on Old Earth, the term used to refer to the body of secretive military orders embedded within the Legion's more formal structure of wings and chapters. Each order was an autonomous body of warriors that existed in parallel with the Dark Angel's standard military organization and hierarchy, and was dedicated to the protection of one portion of the Legion's hard-won secret lore, most often regarding the weakness of some specific foe or mastery of a certain terrain or weapon. They were equal parts scholars and warriors, both researchers and practitioners, and as deadly on the field of battle as they were enigmatic in the halls of the Legion. Though rarely gathered all in one place, small cells of these warriors were often assembled prior to battles that would benefit from their skills, forming a temporary unit known within the Dark Angels as a cenobium to lead the charge and advise the officers in command. The leaders of an order bore the title of preceptor. All of the preceptors of the orders gathered together in a body within the Legion known as the Conclave of Preceptors. The Hekatonystika was divided into two subdivisions, the Orders Militant and the Orders Civilis. The Orders Militant were comprised of those Astartes with battlefield specialist knowledge, while the Orders Civilis were usually non-Astartes mortal support staff whose specialist knowledge was dedicated to non-combat tasks. As a body comprised primarily of mortals, the Orders Civilis were not allowed to attend the Conclave of Preceptors. Many hundreds of Orders Militant have been recorded during the history of the First Legion, many of which have long since been forgotten or destroyed in battle. Of those that remained active at the outbreak of the Horus Heresy, the following page presents a brief sample. The Orders of the Hekatonystika, though more numerous, boasted far fewer adherents than each of the individual hosts of the First Legion, the other, earlier parallel system of organization that existed within the First Legion. Of the hundreds of individual orders in the Legion, most could count no more than a few dozen initiates, a mere handful of warriors by comparison to the vast hosts and chapters of the Greater Legion. Such warrior fraternities could not disseminate their knowledge across an entire legion in the same manner as the hosts, and harbored a skill set ill-disposed towards such a use. The Orders of Battle were experts in a single bloody aspect of war, the destruction of a singular foe or the mastery of some aberrant field of conflict. When a battle group of the First Legion encountered a foe worthy of their hatred or a field of battle whose nature defied their contempt, it was to the Orders of Battle that they turned, forming a cenobium, a cadre of the warriors from an order trained to negate the foe, to lead the assault and to turn all their secret knowledge into a weapon to smite the enemies of mankind. Each Order of Battle maintained a strict hierarchy, though no two were exactly the same, with each organized to best serve the aims and lore kept by that order. For, unlike the hosts, which openly recruited and shared much of their knowledge when called to battle, the orders were of a more secretive nature. The true position and nature of the ranks within a given order were only truly understood by the inducted initiates of that order, with a system of ciphers and cryptic signs unique to each order used to mark them out to those who had been inducted into their ranks. Each tier of the order granted an initiate greater understanding of the mysteries it had been created to preserve and placed upon them a greater burden of responsibility to keep that knowledge ever ready to be called upon at need. The order would meet to affirm their knowledge in the form of rituals and tradition, as well as to train in more practical ways, to keep ready blade and bolt for the day when their knowledge would be required in the name of the Legion and the Imperium. Most orders maintained a sanctum chamber aboard any void ship to which a cell of their members was posted, a private space into which entry was only granted to ordained members of the order and where ritual training and study could be pursued in seclusion. Some of the largest orders controlled space stations, most often based in and around war zones that supported or required their unique skills. The Order of Broken Spears, for instance, operated an orbital stronghold capable of hosting all 138 known members, set in place above the broken mesas and twisting canyons of Argyle 3, a death world whose rock was laced with traces of heavy metals that countered most active sensor systems. Given that the Broken Spears were masters in the art of ambush and the silent war of wits that prevailed in such dense and confusing terrain, this served as the perfect location for the training of its initiates and as a retreat for those veterans seeking to contemplate the teachings of the order without distraction. These sanctum, whether grand strongholds or Spartan chambers aboard a ship of war, also served a crucial role in the recruitment of new members. Such prospective acolytes were identified by the senior members of a cell by the record of their achievements and skill, and were subject to much debate within the cell before any decision was made. Once summoned by the cell, a warrior could expect to face a series of grueling physical and mental trials, administered in the seclusion of the order's domain, where these candidates were granted limited rights of entry, though often under binding oaths to hold secret all that was witnessed. Such trials varied widely between orders, though often presented the very real possibility of serious injury or even death for those that accepted the challenge. The exact nature of these rituals was kept secret, and even those that failed were bound by the honor of the legion not to speak of that which they had faced. Such was the respect given to the orders of the Hekatonystika by the rank-and-file warriors of the legion. Only once fully inducted would they receive the freedom of the order's domains and the right to begin study of the first tier of the hidden lore of their new warrior brotherhood, and to bear the mark of acolyte upon the ceramide of their war plate. To hold a position even in the outer circles of one of the order's militant of the Hekatonystika was considered a great honor, and of the entire legion less than half could claim such an achievement. Though few outside of the ranks of a given order knew the full import of the insignia borne by its adepts, all of the legion's warriors granted the bearer of such a sigil due respect, and few even amongst the most senior of commanders would fail to heed their advice, no matter what rank they might hold outside the order. Though it was a rare occurrence, some particularly skilled warriors within the legion bore the insignia of more than one of the order's militant upon their armor. In some cases, such warriors have formally departed one order to take up a position in a new brotherhood, sworn to keep the secrets of their old association, while in the most exceptional of cases they may hold rank in two or more orders at the same time. There are only a handful of examples of this, the most well-known being Lionel Johnson himself, who held the rank of High Preceptor of every order within the Legion, and Knight Captain Adrus Deucalion, bearer of the sword Chrysor. Knight Captain Deucalion, who was also a marshal of the fire wing of the Hexagrammaton, was counted one of the finest swordsmen in the Legion and held station within 3 separate orders, blending the blade techniques of each to form a unique and deadly style of his own. Order of Shattered Crowns. The Order of Shattered Crowns was one of the oldest orders still active within the First Legion during the later years of the Great Crusade, with its origins to be found during the Unification Wars on ancient Terra. The Shattered Crowns were unparalleled experts in the identification and open execution of the enemy's leaders. They were not assassins or silent killers, but proud champions that sought out the heart of the foe's defiance and cut it from the body of their army. The Shattered Crowns practiced a number of secret dueling arts, once commonplace in Terra's forgotten dueling cults, but now all but vanished. Most were also initiates in the Deathwing and Firewing of the Hexagrammaton, whose doctrines meshed well with the Order's teachings, though the preceptor of the Order was rumored to stand in the inner circle of the Dreadwing as well. Order of Broken Wings. Almost entirely represented within the ranks of the Iron Wing, the adepts of the Order of Broken Wings were masters in the art of anti-aircraft defense, dedicated to both the arts of deflection, targeting, and the craftsmanship of superior weaponry, most often heavy-caliber autocannons. The Order were considered experts in the placement and operation of ordnance to defeat enemy airborne incursions. Commanders would often summon the Broken Wings adepts from the ranks to oversee such deployments or to man particularly important defensive emplacements during battle. Order of Santals. The Order of Santals was dedicated to the detection and destruction of certain dire clades of Xenos, specifically those that thrived by means of psychic or physical parasitism. Once spread widely throughout the Legion, the Order of Santals had access to a large arsenal of Psi-Arcana weaponry collected from 100 fallen realms. The hidden battle honors of the Order included such battlefields as Advex Moors, Nemoti, and Muspel fields of blood and terror that rival even the legendary battles of the Eleanor Crusade. In the aftermath of the Council of Nicaea, the Order of Santals was much reduced in number and influence, as those of its number that had once held positions within the now-defunct Librarius of their legion found themselves stripped of title by order of the Emperor's Edicts of Nicaea. Order of the Argent Spire. The doctrines of the Order of the Argent Spire were specialized in the mastery of battle upon the frozen wastes of winterworlds and other icebound landscapes. Its adepts practiced a number of rituals based around enduring extremes of cold that would sap even the strength of the legion's Astartes, and several unique blade kata intended to provide stability amid the shifting flows of ice and snow. Its adepts were most commonly found among the ranks of the Stormwing, where small cells were often summoned from the ranks to take the lead in campaigns upon frozen death worlds, though the veterans of the Firewing had also shown some admiration of the specialized sword skills practiced by the Order's Inner Circle Knights. Order of Broken Spears. The Order of Broken Spears were specialists in ambush and hit-and-run tactics in difficult terrain. The Order operated an orbital stronghold capable of hosting all 138 known members, set in place above the broken mesas and twisting canyons of Argyle 3, a death world whose rock was laced with traces of heavy metals that countered most active sensor systems. Given that the Broken Spears were masters of the silent war of wits that was necessary to prevail over a foe in such dense and confusing terrain, this served as the perfect location for the training of its initiates and as a retreat for those veterans seeking to contemplate the teachings of their order without distraction. Order of Broken Claws. Of the orders militant of the 1st Legion's inner circle, that of the Broken Claws had the fewest adherents, but not due to its insignificance. Formed in the wake of the Second Rangdan genocide, this small order held the only full and complete accounting of that war and the Xenos strain known as the Ronda, and, in the wake of that Xenos strain's destruction, these knights were charged with guarding the spoils of those victories. With access to the detailed catalog of anatomical data compiled by Firewing operators and Dreadwing chirophages, the adepts of this order were trained to stand against the worst Rangdan bioforms in combat and emerge victorious. During the bloody sieges of the Third Rangdan genocide, they won much renown for their prowess, both in combat and in anticipating and countering the strategies of the Rangdan warmasters. But in the wake of the Rongda's apparent annihilation, they had dwindled in number. By the time of the Horus Heresy, few members of this order remained, with only a single chantry station still in service over the ruined world of Advex Moors, where the relics of the dread Ronda were entombed. Following the notable Battle of Perditus during the Horus Heresy against a force of the Death Guard Traitor Legion upon the barren world of Umbral 51, which was a Mechanicum Archaeotech research hold, the Magi reluctantly turned over the content of their forge fanes and transferred the rich bounty to the First Legion ships in orbit. The Cenobites of the Broken Claws deemed Umbral 51 too dangerous to be left behind and destroyed the Mechanicum facility with tectonic bombs. The relic weapons of Umbral 51, a prize that may perhaps have tipped the war for either side, had been delivered into the hands of the Order of the Broken Claws, and of their ultimate fate none could be certain. Some sources indicated that the Order transferred them to their chantry houses across the galaxy and kept them hidden. As the events of the Horus Heresy unfolded, the duties of the Order of the Broken Claws were extended, with small groups guarding stasis vaults containing relics and weapons acquired from the vanquished foes of the First Legion. Each knight of the order would vow to prevent these artifacts from falling into the hands of those who opposed the Imperium, and only in the Guardian's death would his sworn bond be broken. The 500, the first 500 warriors of the Dark Angels to stand alongside their Primarch on Caliban, after arriving on that world with the Emperor, would come to be known simply as the 500, an honorary company embedded in the Legion's system of orders militant. Each of the 500 were sworn to a unique duty, bound to gather information and to keep it hidden for the benefit of the Legion, just as the other orders militant, save the subject of their scrutiny was the Primarch himself, for among all the doctrines of the old hosts of the First Legion, each carefully crafted and honed by centuries of war, they had never accounted for such a manifest icon of war and death as a Primarch. Study was required that they might learn how best to fight at his side, which weapons were best suited to be deployed alongside the Primarch, and how the Legion would need to be reshaped to serve his will. Lionel Johnson himself would prove no more forthcoming to his Gene sons than he had been to his brother Primarchs, prone to silence and self-reliance. He offered his new Legion the chance to prove itself in battle, but gave them no guidance on the means by which they would best earn his respect. The 500 would serve as the Lion's lifeguard, to fight and die ever in his shadow, that the Legion might learn that which their new master was reticent to speak of and earn his favor in war. Their hard-won secrets, enshrined in the tome known as the Lion Codex, was among the most cleverly and completely ciphered records within the Legion, for it contains the sum of their knowledge of Lionel Johnson, his fighting style and strategies. Such secrets would be valuable beyond reckoning to any foe of the Legion, and just as priceless to his Gene sons, for with the guidance of the Codex the Council of Masters sought to reshape their Legion in his image. As such, the 500 were its only keepers, and they accepted no new initiates, which ensured that the secrets the company held lived or died with them. The Lion himself never mentioned this enterprise, never uttered one word of praise for the ever-present honor guard at his side, even as their numbers dwindled over time. Yet, neither did he forbade them their study, and on the eve of battle he often waited patiently for those of the 500 present to assemble at his side before he set forth. This silent acceptance was counted by the Dark Angels as the ultimate mark of recognition, worth more to them than any honor marking or gaudy touch of victory. In addition to the orders militant of the Hekatonystika, there also existed the orders civilis, organizations dedicated to non-battlefield tasks requiring specialist knowledge and vital to the success of the Dark Angels Legion. These orders rarely counted any full battle brothers among their ranks, but instead were a means of honoring those mortal Legion serfs and failed aspirants who dedicated themselves to the support of the frontline warriors. Among their number were counted armorers, quartermasters, cargo pilots, and maintenance crew. The unseen backbone of the Legion's operations. Yet, as these lesser orders were given no representation among the conclave of preceptors that led the Hekatonystika, there are few records of their structure and history now available to outsiders.